We are back to talk about my neighbor and why he keeps getting new all-terrain vehicles? No, it's not an all-terrain vehicle. Okay, so he's getting like there started with four-wheelers. He got this person is around my age, and he moved in. I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna get it wrong. Somewhere between 4 and 6 months ago, and a couple doors down, so not necessarily my neighbor, but living in an apartment complex, it's almost like everybody's your neighbor. And this guy started off by getting it was a Jeep, a really old Jeep, and I believe that was the first thing he got, and it sat for a long time. It was a very nice looking old Jeep. Looked like it was in decent condition, but whatever the problem seemed to be with it, he couldn't fix it. And so at some point, he traded it for 3 four-wheelers. They were like these they weren't the small sport ones. They were like mid-size. They weren't as big as a four-wheeler. A little bit smaller, but not like the tiny ones. And he would periodically go out there and work on them, and all of his tools are out there, and all of his sprays, and all of his oils, and all of his parts are all just out there. They get rained on. He never brings them in. I don't know why. He never puts them away. I don't know why. And and anyway, so these little projects that he has out there, never really seemed to go anywhere. He traded the Jeep and got these 3 four-wheelers, and I've seen him mess with them. No, it's probably been 6 months, actually. Yeah, it's been a while. Maybe it's been a year. I don't know. I don't pay too much attention to him, but I do notice the fact that whenever one of these vehicles gets traded out for another vehicle. So he gets a truck at some point, as well as all of these four-wheeled vehicles, and he doesn't seem to be having a good time of fixing his stuff, or a very successful time, and I keep wondering why. And then at some point, now apparently he's traded out. He traded 2 of the four-wheelers out for 2 go-karts, and then that was maybe 2 months ago, and now he's traded one of the go-karts for a golf cart. And I just wonder where is he getting all of this stuff? Does he have the money for this? What job does he have? How does he support these things that he's doing? But when I think about it, I usually end up bringing it back around to myself somehow, and I think, like, why am I even paying that much of attention? Is there something? Where your attention goes, your energy flows. I'm putting my attention into nothing by paying attention to it, necessarily, I guess. Sometimes he tries to talk to me whenever I'm trying to fix my vehicle, and I'm just trying to fix my vehicle. I'm not really trying to have a conversation. And the part that I'm fixing, and what am I trying to do now? Let me fix my vehicle, dude. And, I don't know. It's interesting to see how other people work like this. I don't know why it seems like he's not having very much success, and why every time he manages to get one of these things started, it only runs for about a minute, and it burns a massive amount of substance and puts a lot of fumes in the air that you shouldn't breathe. And I'm like, ugh. I wish he had more success, though. I mean, like, if he could get those things up and running and sell them. I wonder if that's not what's happening. That one four-wheeler is sat there the entire time, and it just more parts keep coming off of it, and he's not putting anything new on it, and it's slowly becoming nothing. And anytime I've ever heard him talk about it, he's like, oh, something's wrong here. Nope, something's wrong here. And then he leaves all these parts out to get rained on and weathered on. And then it's strange to him when these things won't work. I suppose maybe that is where I should be. That is where I'm maybe paying attention, is because maybe that's how it reflects upon me in some way. There are things, of course, we are all doing this in some manner. We're paying attention to some things in our life and leaving other things out that probably should be paid attention to. Maybe his attempt at all of these projects is a distraction for him from something else. I don't know what that would be. What am I distracting myself with by talking about this? I'm distracting myself from something. I know I was a little nervous to start this one. I'm nervous to start all of them. Even though I'm just talking to myself for the most part. It's like, what am I going to say to me? I don't even have anything. I'm not that interesting to myself. I don't know. I'm interesting enough to myself. I try to keep it interesting. It's interesting enough being a self, if you think about that. Because, like, my body has needs. There are things that I have to fulfill for it. And, but there's other stuff going on. So, I'm going to divert the conversation a little bit here. Me and my wife were talking. And, we were talking about one of the most recent episodes from the Rogan podcast that I had watched with John Kiriakou, and we were talking about the government and how disappointing and how upsetting what it seems like the standard is for the government and how that treats society as a whole. And obviously that's a very complex conversation, and we're working on, both of us, articulating things, our ideas to each other better, so that way we can have better conversations. Because how many times do you talk to somebody that you really enjoy, you love someone, and it seems like you're desperate for like a deep conversation with them, while those deep conversations are hidden somewhere underneath the surface. Somewhere down there, they're hidden. And if you, I don't know, maybe it's enough time with somebody, maybe it's enough experience, certain type of experiences with somebody. We were talking about this stuff, and she was telling me how when she starts talking about all the lies that I don't know, independent journalists, all the ties that have been cut from the last few years, all of the new information that's coming out, the Epstein list, flight logs, the government atrocities, the things that our government, the U.S. government, has done to its own citizens, which, that'll be another podcast. The point is here, where there is no point, the point with no point is, she was just getting really upset. And when we talk about these lies and all this stuff that they're uncovering, as we would talk about it, she would bring up how it would make her start to shake, like she'd start to get like her body, separate from the soul, would get upset. And we were talking about that, and I was like, why do you think that is? Why do you think you literally start to have like a physical response when we start talking about untruth, lies, or whatever? And she says she just hates them. She hates people who lie. She hates liars. And I was like, do you ever wonder if maybe it's something that's deeper inside of you than the fact that maybe you had your experiences with liars and whatnot, and you hate it so much, and you just prefer to live in the truth, and because things are easier and nice and people could be happy? Yeah, sure, but do you wonder if maybe what if that was part of the prompting here? You know what I mean? I always like to try and bring it to a deeper subject in some ways. I can't help myself, because I'm always more concerned with the deeper aspects of what's going on in life than this shallow stuff like but sorry, excuse me. I wonder if sometimes we come into this life with like a prompting, almost like you prompt the chat GPT. I wonder if you come in with kind of like a prerequisite or something, like some kind of goal, some bigger achievement that you hope to do, and if that can drive almost like being pulled by strings you don't see, you're being guided by an ethereal force to do and behave in certain ways that you don't understand. And that can be translated through you. So when you have, let's say you have a pretty shitty start of your life and you're abused, maybe you're molested, maybe who knows what. But you come through and you start to make yourself a better person. You're one of those people that decides to make the choice to look at it positively and come out positive and try to make sure that kind of darkness doesn't spread instead of spreading it. And as a result, your reaction to darkness and evil and lies is one that obviously would make your body have a physical reaction, but also, like, beyond like having disgust, you maybe perhaps actually do something about it. That's maybe a good articulation of how, I don't know, if you're confronted with some evil, you're physically disgusted and then you do something about it. You make a good change in your life that spreads throughout other people's lives. That's a good thing to do, I think, and other people can articulate it back into the world in the wrong way, and maybe you've had a shitty start to your life and all of these bad things have happened to you, like I've said before, and instead of like reflecting on it or deciding to grow from it or deciding who knows what you decide and how you decide it, but you end up going the opposite direction and you end up spreading the darkness instead of alleviating it and illuminating some light. I wonder what your physical bodily reaction is. And part of me is like, you already know what that looks like. You've been on that side for a little bit, and you started off that way where it's like victimization of everything. Everything that is happening to me is the universe's fault and God hates me. That's not really helpful. That didn't help me out any. I figured that out. But, there's got to be things that we're distracting ourselves from that we could but figure out how to bring it back to our attention. There are things we've forgotten about, put on the back burner, and they've been on the back burner for so long that our non-attention to them, and as important as they are for us, are going to have cascading effects throughout our life and on our journey. So, dishonesty is one of those things where if you are regularly dishonest, consistently dishonest, maybe pathologically dishonest, that's going to have an effect on your life. That really, you can't, I want to say you can't quantify it, but in some way you can, and people have. Living in lies just doesn't work out. Having to build, it stresses me out just trying to think about it right now. Having to build every conversation in your head before it happens, having to have all of the pathways ready in your mind. When he says this, I'll say this. If he says that, I'll do this. If he reacts this way, I'm going to do this. It's super stressful, but that's still not necessarily an ability, I suppose, that has left even after shifting to a positive side of life. Like, I still am very much aware of the multiple pathways that can be taken and where they will lead me, and I do often ruminate on them. But it's the perspective that allows me to deal with the pathways in a healthier manner, where I don't obsess over them, and the outcomes also, even if they're bad, don't affect me that much. One thing we were talking about, me and my wife, we talked about this whole how it upsets her and whatnot, and I was like, it upsets me too. Obviously, I don't like hearing about this stuff, and I wish it didn't exist, but I feel like it is my attention. My attention does matter on that. Like, I should definitely be paying attention to what happens in Gaza to some degree. I should be paying attention. You should be paying attention maybe as well. Maybe. Don't let me telling you define how and what you do, though, obviously. It's, it's like, what am I doing here talking to myself, thinking it's going to have an effect on other people? I think it has an effect on the people that are close to me. The people that are close to me, I think, have seen this change that I have made, and they're able and willing to recognize that a change like that might result in more what's the word I'm looking for? A more valid truth, maybe? Because I'm not necessarily saying that anything I'm saying is true. Because when I dip into the metaphysical and the spiritual, and I talk about religions and stuff like that, and I start making weird strings and theories, and a lot of the time I will not make very much sense, and it is, I would say, part of an obligation to try and like take that which is always constantly not making sense to me and draw some conclusions. Drastic ones tend to take place. I think, we let our emotions cloud our judgment, though. Good old classic Jedi type saying. My brother is like, I haven't seen him in a while. Haven't talked to him very much. In the last time since I've seen him, it's been maybe a handful of times. We always have great conversations, but he's like he's his own little sage of his own little well of knowledge that comes from a different place, and that comes from his experience growing up. One particular scenario I remember was I was very mad at somebody, and he's like, you gotta back up a little bit and realize what has happened to them instead of just hating that person. And I almost certainly know for a fact, I mean, it's silly to think that some of this information comes from Star Wars. But I totally vibe with it all the time. The Force, I mean, that's a pretty good, if you're trying to like make some simple words to describe something that is beyond your comprehension, the Force was a pretty good one. That's a pretty good articulation if you're just trying to like make it simple enough that people can connect to it, but at the same time like ethereal enough that it pervades everything. They hit the concept pretty well and all that, I suppose. But we jump back and use several lines from many different movies and several moments from different movies. There's wisdom throughout everything. One of the things that I've told my wife before was like, some people grew up only on the Bible, and as they read the Bible, the universe and its infinite wisdom would occasionally, give me a moment, I'm going to have to articulate this very carefully. I've been working on it for a minute. As you go through your life, the universe will take its finger of infinite wisdom and poke into the tapestry that you view. Imagine for a moment that your life is like one of those constant revolving things that they would put in old movies to make it seem like in an old western, to make it seem like the cowboy on the horse was actually moving when it was just a picture that was revolving behind him. Imagine you're sitting in front of a massive infinite tapestry, and the tapestry does not revolve around two pillars which allow it to have the same images over and over again, but it in fact has no pillars, and the tapestry that moves in front of you, before you, that is constantly changing, is the events and everything that happen in your life. So, in this meditative state, where you sit in your mind space and you see your life pass before you as a tapestry, the universe, or God, Allah, whatever you want to call him, her, it, the force, it pushes through your experiences in your life and highlights certain things that might be necessary for your development, in my opinion. So, when my brother Jericho is watching Star Wars and certain things are said, like anger clouds your judgment, emotions cloud your judgment, that's something that will stick with him for a very good reason. And it is highly emphasized in his mind, so much so that I bet he could recall that particular scene perfectly if he wanted to. And the same goes for me in things like the movie Spirited Away, a Studio Ghibli movie. I hope I said that right. Ghibli. Things happen in that movie that are super psychedelic, and certain moments stick out in my mind that I won't forget, because I think the universe was trying to tell me something with it. So, Spirited Away, The Last of Us, what else has made major impacts on my life? Shoot, there was another good one in there. Avatar: The Last Airbender, that's another good one. That's a kids' show. That hits some great moments. Uncle Iroh has dispensed lots of fantastic wisdom, and it's just interesting. These little moments in movies, in art, in books, in literature, whatever it is, you don't have to read the Bible for the universe to reach out to you through whatever life experiences that you're having. It will poke its finger through the tapestry and make that thing that it believes, it doesn't have to believe, it will make that thing which is important for your development, it will push it upon you and emphasize it. It will highlight its meaning, and it'll make you ponder it for the rest of your life, because it has a deeper meaning than you can imagine. It probably relates to you in your spiritual journey in some way that you might not understand yet. You'll watch these movies as a kid, and they'll attach to you in ways and define your life and shape you in ways that you don't understand, because I believe possibly the spiritual, higher, ethereal dimension version of yourself is pulling some strings, as well as the universe is pulling some strings. It is a constant effort to try and articulate something to you that usually, if you can take the time to ponder on it, will make you a better person. Pondering on the Force, I think, inevitably makes you a better person. Inevitably? I feel like it's hard if you really think, if you have the time to think about these things. A lot of people don't have the time, they would think, because life is so busy and consuming, encompassing. It's so grand that just thinking, just time to think, it's like, man, I ain't even got time to do that. I don't have time to pay attention. I ain't got the money for it. I ain't got the money to pay attention to all this shit that's going on. I got bills to pay. Doing enough psychedelics brings me this perspective of, man, these bills just don't matter. But here I am still paying them, obviously. It's not like I'm willing to not care enough that I'll let everything fall apart around me. I'll go live out in the woods and just try and subsist off bark and grass, and I'm not going to eat any animals, and I'm just going to subtract from everything and die out there. No, that's not quite what's happened. I instead have taken this perspective, this position of trying to get my head on straight and get my articulation of reality distilled, refined. But for what purpose? Again, it's like I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I don't know how I've come to do this podcast, the Third Eye podcast. I don't know how I have decided to start each episode with an ohm, but here we are, and I like it. I'm enjoying it, and some of you are here for it. Some of you will show up for it in the future. But my hand was hovering over it for a moment there. I was thinking about it. Don't worry. I am gonna do it.
So, anyway, let's move on now. Turn the echo off. Oh, what have I done? I've messed up my voice. Oh. Yeah. Sorry, that's a side effect of doing the ohms. Every now and then, I've noticed if I do it too much, my voice actually changes. It's a little raspy. But yeah, my voice will change. Here, I'll do it again.
It's totally obvious when you hear me press the button, but
I mean, what's the point of having a little soundboard over here and not pressing any of these buttons? I mean, what would I be doing? That's the funny thing, too. I didn't buy this. I didn't buy any of this equipment. My wife wanted all of this equipment so she could play video games. And yet, somehow down the line, listening to podcasts, working on myself, I've come to this place where, like, I had this idea in my mind, I've got to start a podcast. Why do I have to start a podcast? I don't know why I had to start a podcast.
but for some reason, there was this pressure to start a podcast, and I just kept telling myself I gotta start a podcast.
And now here I am. I've started a podcast. I'm talking to myself instead of writing in a journal because it's a lot easier. And the first view on every single one of my episodes is always going to be me because I'm going to check out, like, what have I talked about here? What have I mentioned? Was there something I probably shouldn't have said? And also, where do I pick up next time if I need to pick up off anything? Because I've talked about a few weird and interesting things so far. I've talked about forgiving Hitler. I've talked about a few of my psychedelic experiences. I've talked about, I forget already. It doesn't matter. But where are we going? Where are we going with this? I don't know where I'm headed. This is a weird one. This one feels very introspective. I feel like I need to pull something up. Should I do that? Should I pull something up? I'm gonna pull up something weird. Here we go. Let's pull up something weird. So yeah, this guy working on all these parts, all these things in the mutual front yard of everybody's paved. Look at me, ranting, bullshit. I'm not talking about anything. Stop it. You quit that. Cut that out. One thing that has really helped me in this journey of self-discovery, supposedly. Self-discovery. Is that the point of all these religious texts? Is just to make you question everything forever? Like, how do we know that we're going to get... How do we know that, like, any of these religious texts are true? I mean, I know humans mess with stuff all the time. And I know that we lie. Obviously, it upsets all of us. At least most of us. The honest ones, the ones that are at least trying to be honest. It's hard to tell what is true. So, that's why I'm very avoidant of those people that try to shove religion down your throat. Like, there's not even room. There's not even room to discuss it. They theirs is right, yours is wrong. You belong in hell if you believe that. And I just don't think it's that cut and dry. I was talking to somebody about what they believed, and it was very quick to find out. I mean, it's super easy to find out what anybody believes if you just ask them. They're going to tell you. They want to tell you, probably. Most of them probably want to tell you. But I talked to somebody who was a Christian, and I was like, what do you think is going to happen when you die? And they said, oh, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to go to heaven. And I was like, you're confident in that? And they're like, yeah, I am. And I was like, that's good. I want people to like find comfort. You know what I mean? In that, in a sense. I also think, when you find comfort in it, you'll get some wisdom out of it. It's kind of like a trade, a fair trade, hopefully. And but I questioned further. I was like, so you're gonna go to heaven, and you feel confident in that. And I was like, I suppose that's what you would call faith. And she's like, right. So I was like, what? How do you think that's gonna go then? Like you're going to heaven. What do you think is waiting for you, like right after your last breath, though? Like, do you think it's like and I know if somebody else has said this, it's like a reunion with family members at an airport, like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, oh my gosh, I love you, it's been so long. Or like, what do you think's gonna happen? And she's like, I've never actually thought about that. And I didn't ask this, but I was like, I mean, have you read the Bible? Doesn't the Bible say what's gonna happen after you die? What does the Bible say happens after death? After death. Because the Tibetan Book of the Dead explains something very complicated and very elaborate. The Bible describes 2 destinations after death. Why did I... I tricked myself. Here we are. For believers, the soul goes to be with God while the body remains for a future resurrection. The Bible describes 2 destinations after death. For believers, the soul goes to be with God while the body remains. For unbelievers, the Bible speaks of judgment and separation from God after death, with a resurrection for condemnation. Ultimately, at Christ's return, believers will be resurrected with new, glorified bodies to live forever in a new heaven and new earth. For believers, immediate presence with God, future resurrection. For unbelievers, judgment, eternal condemnation. Those judged to be unrighteous will rise to be condemned. That's kind of a little confusing statement. Final state, resurrection, new creation. I don't know. This is the AI overview. I could be getting misled here, ladies and gentlemen. What does the Quran say? When a person dies, their soul is taken by Azrael, the angel of death. God sends 2 angels to question the waiting soul. If the questions are answered correctly, the good soul then sleeps during Barzakh. I definitely said that wrong. Yeah, obviously I'm going to have to read these things to further understand their meaning and maybe articulate them to you. But some people believe in a thing and they haven't really thought about much about what's going to kind of the steps that kind of come after. They just kind of think, if I believe and if I'm good, I'll go here. And that's that. I think it's a little more complicated, and if we're not paying attention, we could have an unpleasant revelation after we die. But like if the Tibetan Book of the Dead is anything to go off of, then, not only a whole lot of maybe what we do here, but how we do it is what results in consequential resurrection. Like, whether you come back as a dog or a cat I mean, like, to some degree, it seems like if you have awareness and you can pay a certain amount of attention, you can control where you go and how you reincarnate. So each of your desires is pulling you in a direction. All of the deadly sins can pull you down into a different incarnation. And what seems confusing to me is, like, at the same time, if you want to transcend all of these things to reach that ultimate enlightenment state, according to Buddhism, Hinduism, and all that, all the like, you need to transcend all of those things, and in a sense letting them all go. Kind of like going back to Avatar, where Aang has to, in order to cleanse all of his chakras and be able to have ultimate control of the Avatar state, he has to proceed through many levels of the chakras. You know what? I'm going to pull those up real quick too, because why not? That'll be good information. So Aang has to clear all of his chakras, and he talks to, I think, a guru to do that. And he gets to the one that involves, I believe, attachment, which is where he has to let go of Katara, which is someone that he loves. And so if you can transcend all those things and clear all of your chakras, you could have that control of the Avatar state. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, chakras are 7 pools of energy located along the spine that must be opened in order to control the Avatar state. Each chakra is associated with a specific emotion or aspect of life, and they are blocked by emotional burdens like fear, guilt, shame, and grief. To open them, one must confront and let go of these attachments in the correct order, with the ultimate goal of achieving a state of emotional freedom. 7 chakras, as explained in the show. Earth chakra, located at the base of the spine. It deals with survival and is blocked by fear. Water chakra, located in the stomach. It deals with pleasure and is blocked by guilt. Fire chakra, located in the solar plexus. It deals with willpower and is blocked by shame. Air chakra, located in the heart. It deals with love and is blocked by grief. 5th chakra, not explicitly named, deals with communication and is blocked by lies, represented by the guru, showing Aang how to open the 5th chakra. 6th chakra, also not explicitly named, deals with thought and is blocked by deception. The 7th chakra, the final chakra, located at the crown, which is blocked by attachment. To open it, one must achieve a state of enlightenment by letting go of all attachment. A task Aang struggled with because of his love for Katara. So, if he could have only let go of Katara in that state, in that mental place, if you've ever watched that particular episode, he could have proceeded on to becoming fully enlightened, so to speak, and have full control of the Avatar state. I think there's some wisdom to these chakras, at least to energy, and we, just like the person that I talked to, and it's no offense to this person if she ever happens to chime in and listen to this and hear me speak and she knows it's her, I mean no offense. Of course, everybody believes in what they believe in, and for their own reasons, but yeah, I feel like you got to do a little bit of a deep, if you're going to believe something and it's going to account for what happens to you after your death, I feel like that's a big deal, and you should maybe pay attention to what it is you are putting your, like, spirit stock in. Whatever you're putting stock in the spirit realm might have a real effect. I also think it's possible, what if all of these religions do exist in some way? Like I said before with the egregore kind of theory, where like if enough people believe in a thing, it kind of creates it, it manifests it into reality. What if all these religions do exist because of their mass beliefs? And that's another thing, that's another why Christianity perhaps is such a huge religion, I mean, lots of blood has been shed for it, obviously. But what big religion hasn't even accidentally spilled a drop? You know what I mean? And just from trying to exist, you know, people out there will start a religion for good. People out there will like try and spread what seems like spiritual information for all the good reasons. And of course, as time goes on, humanity will twist it, and that twisting will have ramifications throughout the fabric of time and cause negative things to happen to people who believe in it. So, I wonder if your belief in Christianity is a true belief, just like the belief in the Quran or belief in Buddhism or whatever, fill in the blank. What if your belief does in fact take you where your belief describes? And what if you're not paying enough attention? What if you haven't done the deep dive on your religion and you don't realize that some of the things you're doing are in fact probably great sins in your religion and you just haven't really looked? Or maybe the process of your religion is a lot scarier than you realized and you haven't paid enough attention to really want to put that much effort into your life based off of your religious beliefs. That's a thing too. People go to church but don't read the Bible on their own time. And I know there's people out there that read the Bible on their own time, of course. The spectrum from the most enlightened believer to the least is completely here on planet Earth. We have the full spectrum from the worst to the best and everything in between. And somewhere on that spectrum fits me, I suppose. Because I don't think I've transcended it. I don't think my belief that believing in one or the other could send you to a place that has been created by mankind instead of to the place that is just simply waiting for you if you weren't. That's another thing too. People's trips can be like shaped by what they believe and their experiences. And if you are experimenting with psychedelics and you haven't done the deep dive on maybe the safest or best way to do it, you're going to have a pretty chaotic and intense experience pretty much no matter what, and you're going to come out the other side extremely confused, and you might never want to do it again, or you might want to do it again, but just for the sake of the lights and the colors, or maybe the way it made you feel good. But then you're not if you've had only good experiences, you're not prepping for that bad one, because and like I said, I feel like there's no bad trips. I think it's just like it's just a hard lesson, but you're being taught it in a very, very intense way, which is like why I think it's important for some people to do psychedelics, because like I said earlier, there's these things that we're not paying attention to that have been on the back burner for so long that they kind of maybe we like almost incoherently, not even paying attention. We take it off the burner and we throw it in the trash. You know what I mean? And it grows and festers and becomes a problem in our life later on, in a spiritual way, even in a spiritual, a physical way. It has a ripple effect through everything that has these horrible ramifications just because we decided to not pay attention to a small thing. And one little detail, one little pebble in the road has caused our momentum, whatever is propelling our momentum, to catastrophically have like an automobile accident. You know what I mean? Just parts everywhere, things strewn about, just people's lives maybe even shattered. And as a result of you not paying attention. And so maybe look into what you believe a little bit. See what comes after in your books that you read or hear people read about. Find out what's coming, because if the apocalypse or the resurrection or whatever is on its way, revelations, I don't know, whatever, if it's always on its way. It's always coming. We're always supposed to be kind of stressed out about it. We're always supposed to be a little worried, a little bit of pressure. A little bit of pressure on that. There's got to be some kind of pressure, and I feel like some people want to take the pressure off by just like saying, "I believe in God, so I'm going to heaven. I'm good." Bing, box has been checked, and man, you're gonna die, and I think you're gonna be wrong. I think, or could you be right? That's what I did say. I said, if you believe in something, it could be possible that that place has been created and you're going to go there by your belief. But like I said, that's why you got to look into it, because you don't really know. I think a lot of us are assuming. We've taken what other people have told us, and we've assumed what a place is and what a thing is and what a belief is, and as a result, we're going to trip ourselves up in the afterlife. And that might not even be the right word for it. Afterlife? Is this life? What is life? What is life in general, guys? Like, am I even alive right now? Because if I'm a simulation, I'm code, right? I'm not alive. Am I? What is consciousness? Does consciousness make something alive? And if consciousness pervades everything, does that mean rocks are alive? Inanimate objects are alive? Under that presumption, if everything is alive. However, if you treat everything like it's alive, and you treat it the way you would treat a living thing, especially that you cared about, then as a result, I think you would, you definitely make things a lot better for yourself if you treated everything like it was alive. Like, treating this water cup over here, me treating it like it's alive, me caring for it, me washing it carefully, and making sure it's not nasty, and making sure I, just every time I'm done with it, cleaning it out, setting it to dry. It's a Yeti cup, you can't just buy a Yeti cup, because you got to care for it too a little bit. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you can't put it in the fridge. It'll fuck it up. You can't, I think, put it in the washer. It'll fuck it up. You gotta hand wash it. Like certain clothes out there, you can't just throw it in the washer. But certain beliefs out there too, you can't just jump right in. You can't just jump right in and think that it's going to protect you in some kind of way, because it won't. That's dangerous. I don't think it'll protect you. I think it will. I think it may set you up for something you weren't expecting. And, if your belief does literally send you to the place of your belief, well, then I suppose a lot of Christians are going to a good place, especially if they're doing well. Especially if they're doing good, I should say, not just doing well. But if that's the case, then where is my belief going to take me? My belief is very, very vague right now. My belief is kind of like, it's possible that all of these religions exist. It's possible that maybe just one could be right. It's possible that in a universe where there's infinite realities, there's a universe for each religion where that religion is correct, and in its belief, it is fully correct in that universe. Meaning, like, Allah is almost like the ruler god of one universe, and Christian God, Jesus, is like the god of another universe. That could be possible. It could also be possible that pervading through every universe and every reality, there is a truth that transcends all of that, where it's like, none of those things are necessarily true, but nor are they completely untrue at the same time. And it's just your perspective, because one of the things that happened in the Christian chronological timeline was the translation of the Bible, so that priests weren't the only ones who could decipher the Word of God, and the church didn't really like that. They like being able to deal out God's Word like it's like it is not what it actually is. Because, I mean, if it were like God's Word and you treated it like that, you would maybe not be holding on to it in such a way. You would perhaps let it be freely distributed, I would suppose, so that people could freely learn from it and interpret God's Word in their own way. But, because I do think that's important, but I guess that's why I said earlier with, are they just, these religions supposed to just make us question everything endlessly? Because if one religion is right, man, we're screwed. Man, we're screwed. So many of us are screwed. And doesn't that suck? Doesn't that suck? Like, man, I just grew up a Christian. They baptized me as a baby before I could speak, or whatever. Maybe I'm 11 and they baptized me, and 40 family members from different families and a couple different churches came to see it. And it was like also my younger sister's birthday because I delivered to a house where that was going on once. And it's just like, who's right? It can't possibly be that we're all right. Can't possibly be that one person's right. Can't possibly be that no one's right. So when I hear these things like, it can only be deciphered by the guru, or you can't read this scripture on your own. You have to have a monk or something with you to help you understand it. Like, why can't I help me understand it? Why can't I help myself understand it? Why can't I read all of these things and try my best to understand all of them myself? I know a lot of people aren't going to try and do that. I know that sounds like a lot of work. Just saying it sounds like work to me. Yeah, but like, in the greater grand scheme of things, if we're going to pay attention, if we're going to try and make the right choice as we get close to the end, I feel like we got to have all the information. I know I've said all this before, but do we really think it's smart to just take what some people have told us and maybe what some people have preached at us and consider it absolute? I understand there's safety in that. I understand there's comfort in that, but if you really read some of these doctrines, some of these scriptures, you might come to also understand in depth that comfort is not a good thing that you should be seeking. If you die and in a spiritual realm where you are only energy and you sense comfort on one end of a realm and you sense discomfort on another end of a realm, why should it make sense that leaning into the spiritual discomfort is what leads you to the enlightenment? In the physical realm that we are in right now, that you inhabit, as you do things throughout your day, whether you're mopping a floor, whether you're helping an elderly person, whether you're delivering for a delivery service, whether you are whatever you're doing, whether you do it, shit, I lost my train of thought. Whatever you're doing, there's a certain level you could pay attention to it. There's scripture can apply to just about anything if you tried. I'm not saying you should, but whatever you're doing, wherever you think you're going to end up, whatever you think is true, it's possible, it's not. And I invite you to question it. I invite you to question if your own thing that you believe is true. And if you haven't paid that much attention to it, if you grew up in it and it simply kind of is your environment and always has been, I am inviting you to question that, to question your environment, to start peeling things apart, because beneath the thousands of layers of cells, not even beneath, beyond the body that you are and the mind and the brain that you have, there is a place that you will go to, in my opinion, and when you end up there, regardless of your belief, there is a good chance that it will be different than what you believed, and that you'll have maybe perhaps more control or less control than you thought. And under those realizations, I would give the advice of try not to freak out under the weight of what you did not understand. We are blind to the things we don't believe. And so when you believe one thing, you're cutting off a lot of other stuff. So I guess that's why that's why I don't necessarily believe any one of these particular religions. I don't believe them necessarily, and I don't disbelieve them. I think they're all trying to tell us something. And Shoot, I remembered something I was going to say earlier. Fuck. But if you believe these things and they send you in these places, you know, you don't know what you signed up for. Read the fine print. Another thing that I remembered earlier, letting go of all attachments, letting go of everything to become enlightened and I guess merge back with the universe or God or whatever it is. You have to let go of everything, including your attachments, including love. So that's something that I suppose bothers me because I enjoy the connections that I have with the people that I like. And like some of the friends that I've made in this place that I've moved to, it took a long time to even realize that they could be a friend because I'm not like a lone wolf, but I kind of jump out here and do my own thing now, or at least that's what I've decided to do. And some people have seemingly been attracted. Some people I don't even prefer to hang out with are attracted to hang out with me. They want to hang out with me. They're constantly like, you can come over and we can hang out. And I'm like, maybe. It's not a no. It's a maybe. But that maybe could have a very large window of time on it. We don't know. And I don't know. It's just letting go of the people that I love. I suppose that makes sense if I'm thinking about this, Buddhism term of enlightenment. It's transcending things that make us suffer. So love makes you suffer, unfortunately, because if you love something, if we're in this like realm of samsara that has no beginning and no end, and it's a realm that's never gonna end, where it's always going to exist. There is always going to be beings that have to go through it to transcend to enlightenment. Then at some point, I suppose I'll be able to let go of love and also hate, because I know I get angry. As much as I take psychedelics and as much as I think and try to be better and work on myself, I get so mad sometimes. Is that a part of being male? There's talk of generational trauma, even before. Even if you do everything you possibly can to protect your child or raise them in a way where they grow up with the least amount of, I guess, bad things happening to them that really aren't necessary. Like, there's things that need to happen to your child so that they can grow, but to protect them, to overprotect them. I lost it again. Love and attachment. I gotta let go of all this stuff if I want to transcend. I gotta let go of these people that I love and care about. But like, is there a level? Is there a space? I suppose there is, because if I can make it to where I have come to in my mental state now, from where I used to be when I was 300 pounds, I can make it to a place where I'm currently not at, that is even more enlightened, where I can still interact with this physical realm that I'm in. I can still take care of the people that I care about, that I love, but still not be attached to them. I get that. I understand that. That makes sense to me. I can do that because at the same time, through these psychedelic trips, I've come to understand that at least this physical body is not going to be the end. I'm not going to die here, and it's not going to all be black. That's at least my belief. Atheists out there, or people out there there's atheists out there that have done psychedelics and seen great things and maybe even left their body, but they come back and they're like, it's a hallucinatory state. It's all hallucinations. It's not real. Sorry, buddy. And I don't think that's true, because it's, gosh dang, it's convincing doesn't even come close. Convincing is not close. People have described when you do DMT and you leave your body that place is more real than here. I agree. Wholeheartedly. And my fiance, my wife, has she didn't only describe it as home, she said that beings and or entities there were very much like, welcome home, welcome back, we're so glad to have you back, so what are we doing here on this planet trying to suffer for? I mean, there's got to be lessons in it. We're suffering for a reason. And if all of us paid more attention to the government, if all of us paid more attention to psychedelics, if all of us paid more attention, if we try to broaden our perspective, if we tried to not lash out, if we tried not to get revenge, if we tried to forgive, if it's with so many things we have to try to fix this thing we're in, but I know we can fix it, because if I can take where I was at and what I was doing and all the horrible things and my horrible perspectives and flip it on its head, go from one side of the coin to the other. If I can do it, you can do it, she can do it, they can do it, we can all do it. We're just not doing it. And it's not that we're just not doing it. There are forces in play that prevent us from doing it. It is said that evil simply does not understand the light. It could possibly be said that simply because something is not understood, evil can come as a result. So that's a good point there too. Evil can come as a result of you not understanding something. The darkness does not understand the light. So if you believe in a religion and you don't do the deep dive, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice in some way, because you're not taking the time to try and understand what the light is trying to illuminate. You're not doing your due diligence in figuring out what it is that you are trying to be taught here on this earth, because you're not just here to get a job and to learn and to have a kid and then at some point to die with the belief that you'll go to a good place if you acted good while you were here. I think we're both here to learn something that we're supposed to take with us to the other side, and we're supposed to make a difference while we're here. Because if this is samsara and this is some endless suffering, if this is a space that will always exist, then if you really want to, guys, you can always come back. You'll always come back. And there's also that too. Fallen angels. What are fallen angels? I have this image of God in my mind where it's like this constantly distilling and diffusing thing, a center point of light, where dark emerald-esque colorful jewels, all these sort of things, they slowly fade into the center of a light, and as they get closer and closer they become less colorful and more bright, more gold, more one color, more one luminous light. And then as they enter it, they become one with it, and they become the light itself. But at the same time as things are entering, at the same time as things are melding with the light and becoming enlightened, I see the same picture of things diffusing from it, things falling away from it. It is a constant inward and outward battle. What if the Big Bang is an interdimensional being that is doing breath work, and every time it breathes in, an eternity passes inside of its lungs, and inside of its lungs you incarnate and die infinitely. And then on the exhale, where there's no air in its lungs, everything is pressured together, and then So, what if that's true too? What if what God is this constantly learning thing? What if that's possible? What if it's never really like this thing that's, because if we're in an infinite universe, why would it be a thing that ever fully gets the full picture and becomes fully enlightened? Things would probably fall away over time, right? Maybe I'm putting too much stock on what time is and what it does, because I mean, if there's a being that can transcend all of that and use time in a way that we can't articulate, like in the movie Interstellar, where you can transition through days of time like they're cubes, like they're rooms, and go to whichever room you want and try and like affect that space and time, then time doesn't have that much of an effect as we thought it did, at least on some beings. Well, I know that I don't know, I know that you don't know. I know we don't know. We're all trying to figure it out. Sorry if this one was a little bit of a weird jabberjaw sesh. It really was kind of different, this one. Yeah. Try to jingle through time in a friendly manner. Be nice to your animals. If you see a cat on the street, pet it. Unless you're allergic. Don't do that. If you're allergic to peanuts, don't eat those peanuts. You need to learn something here. And that thing you need to learn is that the vaccine you took was filled with aluminum. And that aluminum has made you allergic to something. I think that's possible. So, one of the things that they're saying about these shots that have, so they used to have mercury in them. The shot has to, with the dead virus in it, it has to confuse your body. Your body has to have this massive immune response to something really deadly. It's going to panic from the mercury in your body. Oh my God! It's trying to kill us. It's super toxic. So it goes over there and attacks it with a full immune system response. And then as a result, here we are. Your body's attacking this thing. And now when they switched over to aluminum started making people allergic to stuff. And my theory is that whatever you're around, whatever you interact with consistently, it's giving you a higher chance of being allergic to that thing. If you fucking like eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and then you get those shots when you're a kid, those like 12 or 18, however many shots you had to get when you were a kid before you went to school, they had that aluminum in it. And then when you was eating your peanut butter and jelly, while your body was having this conflicting response of, oh my God, there's a massive toxin in my body, I need to do something about it. It goes in there, tries to take care of it, tries to take care of the dead virus that's in there too, and you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you fucking love peanut butter. Maybe you're eating peanut butter by the spoonful, you know what I mean? And then, bam! Now you got a massive peanut allergy. It's gonna kill you. And see, what happened to me is now I didn't used to be allergic to cats. Now I'm allergic to cats. That annoys the shit out of me. And yeah, I know my grandpa's allergic to cats. Shut the fuck up. All right, for a minute, let's just think about this. Come on now, people. I didn't used to be allergic to cats. I get that there's like genetic propensities. I know I'm an idiot. I know I'm not a doctor, and I'm not like a gene therapist, but we know there's things they're not telling us. We need to infer a little bit, not necessarily act on those inferrations not necessarily act on them. But keep them in mind and posit them regularly so that way we can try and come to the clearer picture. We need to come to the clearer picture. We can make this society that we're in, we can flip it on its head just like I flipped me on my head, just like we're going to flip you on your head. Alright? We're going to flip everything on its head. But we got to do it one at a time, and we got to do it carefully, kind of systematically, because if we don't pay attention when we're doing it, we're going to hurt people. And you want to try and mitigate as much damage as possible in this time of extra information. When we talk about these people on these flight logs and these Epstein lists, and maybe these pedophiles, maybe these people running the country, maybe running the states, running the whole world, these people that maybe have no faces that are out there, possibly. Going back to forgiveness, we need to. I think this is one thing my wife said. We need to uncover all the secrets. Everybody needs to be like, this is what I have, this is what I've done, and we need to move on to a utopia from there, and take it like I described it, like taking the tarp off all the weapons. All right, this is what I have, these are my nuclear weapons, this is what I've been working on, and not only that, this is what I've been doing that you didn't know about. Also, this is what I've done to you and your country. And then the other side has to go, this is what I have. I have these weapons. I have some of your people. And I've done this to you. And we need to go from that place. We need to unveil the secrets. And we need to not seek vengeance against these people. And for those of us out there, it'll be the hardest thing on the planet for those of us that are very, very closely related to those deep, dark things that have happened. It'll be really hard for those people to forgive and move on and not seek revenge. And because if your child was taken, or if you were kidnapped, or if you were manipulated, you thought you were just trying to make some money, you were desperate, and you ended up in hell as a result. You're going to be deeply affected, and you may not want to forgive, and you may want to seek revenge. Those people need psychedelics. They need to heal. Because that's what I've said before, true healing looks in a way that most of us have never seen. If you've truly healed from your traumas, you won't seek vengeance. And I think that's not even my opinion. I feel like that's a imminent reality. Those are one of those, not an esoteric truth, but it's just a pervading truth. I think it is a truth that cannot be shaken, where if you heal from something, truly heal from it, you could help the person that's hurt you, even maybe. Because if you're healed from it, you're not looking at them like the enemy anymore. You're looking at them like a damaged version of yourself almost. You're like, this person inflicted this pain on me because of the pain that was inflicted on them. And some of us are going to look at, those politicians or the people that are trying to run the world, and if we unveil all the horrible things that they've done, they're going to look at people like me and be like, how could you possibly forgive this? How could you possibly want to try and heal this person? How could you possibly? Guys, all I can say is I just feel so strongly that we won't go anywhere good by putting those people's heads on spikes. That's all. I think maybe they should have a psychedelic trip. Do I think that'll fix them? I don't know. But I think there's they're gonna either... What's the alternative? You really want to cut their head off and put it on I get it. I know. They probably did that to your kid and worse. I know. But, think about your beliefs. Where are you going to end up if you put them on a spike? I know that feels like the right thing to do. I know you want them to suffer. You want them to feel a pain. But if their life is not going to end after they leave the body, where are they going to go? What if they just, as a result of their violent death, they choose to reincarnate as another violent being? You need to take the opportunity you have in the moments where they reveal the truth, and you need to not seek your vengeance, and you need to seek a transformative path or solution. And I'm not saying it would be like, I'm not saying it would heal you, but maybe it would if you were tripping and you watched someone who did something absolutely horrible to you, or someone that you loved, and you watched them tripping 10 times harder than you are. You're supposed to sit there and observe them. They're going to have a nightmare trip. They're going to have a horrible, horrible time, probably, very likely, especially if they are put in the situation where we're not going to kill you, but the only way you can reintegrate back into society, come back with one of us and try and live in a world where there's peace and utopia and as little pain and havoc and chaos and evil as possible, you have to try, you have to take this medicine, and we have to watch you go through it. And I'm telling you guys, the things that can happen to you after death if you go to hell are the same things that can happen to you in a deeply negative trip or hard lesson on psychedelics. It is the same thing. If you are a violent and malevolent person and you take too many mushrooms, you are going to have your skin stripped off. You're going to have little black stones of darkness pulled out of you in the most painful way possible. You're going to have every horrible thing that you've done manifest as a thing that's happening to you in that deep trip. It's going to translate into pain. It's going to translate into suffering. It's going to translate into a 7 or 8 hour experience that transcends time, where you feel like you're in hell for eternity because of all the things you've done. You might, even if you do this, I've heard somebody who's done an ayahuasca trip, and then they tried the first time, nothing. Second time, they're like, I just don't want to throw up. Something good happened, please. I just want some compassion. I want to learn something here. And then as soon as their head hit the pillow, they experienced the life of the person who made the pillow and how much they were sacrificing for their children. It was a woman in particular, a mother. And who's to say that this politician or this person that you want to seek revenge on, if they have no choice but to heal from what they've done and what they're doing and what has happened to them, and maybe even generationally, they take the dose, the medicine, and then what they experience is every single bad thing that has happened as a result of their choices. So every person that's ever been sold off, kidnapped, trafficked, every dark fantasy that's come to light as a result of their dirty wants or needs, all of those things, they're going to experience the other side when they're tripping. They're going to experience what it was like for the little girl that was sold off. They're going to experience what it was like to be in the child trafficking van as the child. They're going to be the child. Their consciousness will switch places. Not necessarily, they'll just go over there and experience it. I know it's hard to understand. I know it's complex, but that's what happens when you do those trips. Things you can't explain happen. Consciousness and the universe explains things to you in profound ways that you have a hard time coming back and explaining to anybody else, because it's not really for anybody else, it's for you. So when you put that politician or that person that you seek that vengeance from, you put them under the medicine, they're going to experience hell. The hell that you probably want them to experience. You don't have to seek your vengeance on them. You just got to get them to eat the dose. And watch them freak out for an afternoon, thinking that they're dying, thinking that they're being torn apart by every person that they've ever done wrong, thinking, every last vengeance. It could be one politician surrounded by a million people, and every single one of those people were people that were directly impacted. They all take a small dose, and the politician takes the big dose. And then what happens as a result is all of the pain, all of the frustration, all of the suffering, all of the deep-seated fears, everything, the angst, the anxiety, the taste for blood, it will all be transmuted into the politician, and they will experience absolute agony. They will become the nexus point for every single catastrophic thing that has happened as a result of their choices and the people that surround them. And they will feel all of that pain. And then in all of that pain, this is where it comes to a head, ladies and gentlemen. In all of that pain, after they've gone through the thick of it, that's when the entire crowd, the sea of people that are surrounding him, that's when they need to convert all of that negative emotion into positive emotion, and then forgive the person, and then love the person that's going to come out on the other side, the child that was buried deep underneath all of that negativity. They'll come out the other side, and that crowd will be waiting for them with love, and they'll fall apart in tears, and they'll apologize to every single person. They'll shake every hand. They'll hug every body, every meat suit out there, and they'll say, "I'm sorry." And it doesn't matter if their hands blister from every handshake. It doesn't matter if every hug chafes their arms, their armpits, their sides. It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter to them. They're going to be so sorry. They're going to be so apologetic. They're going to take whatever pain comes as a result of their deepest apologies and your most heartfelt, loving embrace. Thank you for joining me for another Tuesday, everybody. I'll see you next Tuesday. In the meantime, work on your forgiveness. Try to pay attention to the things that you haven't been paying attention to. Draw back the problems you've been avoiding. Work on them a little bit. Yes? And don't forget to